live now. I'm gonna, if y'all want to tweet that we're live. Yeah. And can someone, yo, I bet you I'm not muted. All right. Let's do this. Let's
Yo.
do this. Ha! What's up? What's up? What's up? It's it's me again. It's your boy Operator R, otherwise known as Ohm3, and I'm with a gang of henchmen today.
Yangin'.
Humans. I mean,
Beings.
I don't know. That's beings. I don't even know. Well, we're gonna get into that a little bit more. I imagine we'll talk about being somewhere along the line in here anyway. We've got Frank Bot as well, who will be touring the metaverse and on a quest. And before we get started today, so I've had some issues. Communicating via the Ohm3 transmission signal. Now, if you don't know, I'm an Ohm3 signal operator, and that's a little bit complex, and I'm not going to get into all of the details of that, but the lore is out there should you choose to search it out and find it. But suffice to say that for now, I have been having some issues with the transmission, and well, I figured out why. There's been something interrupting, something disrupting, something kind of lurking that's made it so that I can't access the signal whenever I want to. And from what I understand, they're called the Corva Fractus, and they are signal pirates. I think we hear one sort of if you hear interference or you hear anything kind of messed up right now, that's probably what it is. It's definitely not Frank's mic, that's for sure. But the fact is that these are like signal gremlins. They're signal pirates, and the Ohm3 beacon is really strong throughout all dimensions in space and time, and so they kind of gravitate towards this like moths to a flame, so to speak. So there may be some disruptions in the programming from time to time, both here and at shows and as it pops up, and I've decided that instead of trying to fight it, I've decided that it's actually a part of my training as an Ohm3 signal operator to sort of go with the flow and just see what I can make out of the situation. So if you notice anything out of the ordinary or if something happens, it's probably the Corva Fractus, and I'll get into more about that as I learn more about it, but be on the lookout for fuckery, for it abounds. Anyway, on with the show. I have three amazing beings, because Frank's here as well, but two amazing beings here. I've got Barry, and I've got a Lamp DX, and we're just gonna fucking clown and talk about pretty much, whatever comes to mind here. Welcome, my friends. It's good to have you.
Howdy.
Yo. Howdy. Good to be here.
Good.
Same.
Always.
We were just talking about how
Normal things.
it's completely normal things. We were just talking about how some of us need to turn our brains off, and
Yeah.
and I,
yeah.
and I think that is super funny. It's a funny observation. I forget where that came from or whatever, but it's kind of the truth. And ironically, like, some of the smartest people I know, or some of the brainiest, fastest people I know, are also like really, really into shit that just hits their fucking reset button and turns their brain off. Oh, someone wants to have Lamp's babies in the chat.
Someone in chat is extremely into it. I mean,
You could take
that
them.
was from that Straz tweet. I mentioned that Straz tweet about how there's a whole class of person that just needs to like take a break from deep thought, and that hit me really hard.
You felt personally attacked?
I felt a little personally attacked, yeah. So, because that's I do the same thing, where I'll go find like a mindless activity to just kind of zen out on for a little while. I'm not spinning in my head about stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
For me, I like to zone in more. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like, I have a lot of trouble. Like, I don't really understand the idea of like zoning out at this point. Like, at some point I could do it, but I don't know. When time passes fast and I'm not noticing, and I'm like doing something, that's usually when I'm not thinking too hard about stuff. I'm just doing it. That flow state.
Yeah. and that's interesting, I think, is because like, you know, I somehow every day I wind up talking about fucking flow state like 3 times a day, but like
I was like, should I drop it? Yeah.
but it's true, and it's like yeah, like you're like backing towards things that like force you to kind of like, for me, I'm extremely attracted to complexity, to my detriment. To my detriment, because you know, like I could just do the easy thing or the thing that would promote my overall goal, but instead I'll just be like, nah, fuck it, let's like learn how to like build the thing that builds the thing instead of just using the thing that's already built or whatever. And but I think in like that's its own kind of meditation, and that's its own sort of like you're kind of seeking to sort of just like zone out and chill the fuck out. But like I know a lot of people like that. And that's like literally the only time they chill out is when they are deeply absorbed in something highly complex.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, honestly, like thinking back on it, I don't know. It was always like just zoning out wasn't a concept that really held like much weight in this kind of like area. Has the same energy, you know.
Yeah.
Everyone's like always just like, oh man, it's time to go make something. You just talk to everyone here. It's like being in a parallel universe where instead of being like the average person, you ask them like what they're into. They're like, oh, I don't know, like I watch Netflix, like my job, I get a cat or whatever. You talk to the average person in VR chat, and they're all just like, yeah, I'm learning like 8 programs, and I don't know how to use any of them, and I really should focus on one.
Right.
And I'm not gonna though because it's fun. Yeah, like
Right.
it's awesome.
I'm gonna learn another 9th program instead.
yeah. It's like, oh, touch Xener in 5D.
Right.
Yeah, seriously, that is the case. But that like that energy has been so incredible to be around, right? Because pretty much everybody that's around us is like working on creating something or learning something, and everybody's sort of learning and creating together. And like I cannot think of another time in my life, maybe besides like when Frank's back in the metaverse. Good. I was getting worried about him. That, you know, like maybe like right when that first producer boom started popping off and everybody was kind of learning how to produce, that was kind of like this. But like no, because people were like, I figured out the Skrillex snare. Fuck you. And right. No one was sharing that shit. And it was
like giving it away.
Yeah, so it was like,
everything's free here. It's really crazy.
Yeah, like I
Every tool that
dated
gets made.
Feed Me's mom to get those patches, and you can't fucking have them or whatever.
I thought I told you not to tell anybody that.
No,
it's a dark chapter. I think part of it maybe is that like because even that like producing boom, there's like a key difference I think to me, and that key difference is people have been using those DAWs or DAWs in some form for like a long time, and they're well understood, and it was more just like kind of putting that tool to like a new use, but it was really a use that like it was worn ground, right? Ever since like people have been making music all on a computer. Right. Whereas like, I don't know, when you get to spaces like these, it's like, I would like to make a snare that doesn't crash when 30 people listen to it. Like we have to kind of like, I don't know, work together and like try and like push these limits. And so, you know, even the people who wouldn't want to do it,
it's untread ground by anybody. It's not like there's somebody you're trying to emulate their sound that they've already figured out. Like
I mean,
or even you know, you're using the same tools to do similar things. To do different things, right? You're at the end of the day, you're all still using a DAW, whereas this is like the platform's evolving at the same time as the tools are evolving, and all that's being shared between people, because it's more like instead of 10 people where one of them's a huge producer and the other ones are trying to like figure out how to like do that also. The like all 10 people don't know what the hell they're doing. So,
yeah, exactly. It's like if we had,
we're like, oh, I figured out how to do a cool thing with 3.0 toggles, so let's share that, right? Or
exactly.
To do UI design that makes more sense to your brain in VR than like just buttons that you laser beam at, right?
Totally. And that like sort of the truly meta aspect of this, where we are participating in a world that's creating itself, that portion of it is like highly psychedelic to me, to think about.
Oh yeah.
You know, this sort of like this like air of like co-conspiracy that we are all involved in, trying to kind of recreate a new reality that's creating itself just out of pure, just out of the fact that we want to, out of the fact that we're excited to, in a world where that feeling is just so few and far between, right?
Yeah, or
Yeah.
I mean, I agree absolutely. I think, or at least it's few and far between, as far as we know, right? Because I think a big part of it is just like that vibe is just as capable of existing in theory, I think, anywhere. It's just like you don't form those connections naturally on the current state of like the internet, right? There's no, I mean, there are internet communities that form around some things, right? Like I've been in music communities and artist communities, and shout out to all my friends that I like, keep up with in those circles. But like, you don't have as much like emotional like resonance, right? Like reciprocity, I guess is a good way of putting it. That just hits so hard in this space, and everyone's building off of each other and blowing up in ways that feels like a lot of people forgotten, or God forbid, grew up not really having.
Especially like internet like art communities also have a tendency to like commodify at some point. Like there's this like drive to like, ooh, we got to commodify this and sell it and figure out how to get big or whatever. Where like outside the internet, that's totally possible. There's a lot of places like if you go just not on the internet, go to like some small community, almost small like actual town somewhere, and look at like people who run small businesses. Like they're not trying to like blow up, right? They like don't even have a Facebook. They just are a business with a sign, and they're enjoying it. Like they're just having fun, building things with like a tiny team of people. And that's I think that's kind of missing from a lot of.
Yeah, I almost
sort of,
worry
like, lack of quantification
for people that have never experienced something like this before. Like for if this is like your first scene that you're a part of, like I almost just like fuck, like I just want to tell people like this is incredible. Please like imbibe in this as much as possible, because these don't happen very often. Like this happens like once every like decade or something somewhere, and please just but who knows, with the fact that kind of mixed reality is entering the chat in a big way. I still firmly believe that mixed realities promote empathy in a way that other social media platforms have not been able to, and I think that we're gonna see more actionable residual from that concept as we get further and further along, and I think that this scene right now is a really good example of that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It feels like really a test bed, right?
Right. I've had really similar conversations about like, why is this place so empathetic? Like, why is everybody so like nice and genuine? And there's like this lack of like, I don't know, the kind of like internet persona thing that happens basically everywhere else. Kind of doesn't happen a whole lot in VR spaces. And I've had that conversation. People have noticed that like all around me, but people who definitely aren't talking to each other, right? It's not like this like shared idea. It's just this sort of thing that exists out there in the ether, and people are noticing it. There's something about being like a humanized avatar and having to like look people in the eyes and like be at them, right? Like be another human being.
You have to, because at the end of the day, for all the ability, I mean, it's first of all, it's like easy to like channel a vibe into like a Twitter or something, Straz, exactly. It's like you can have your like when you go into the phone and do the social media at it, you can you have your vibe, right? But I don't think anybody wants to do that enough to make it their entire identity, and it's not you can't do that in VR unless you like made a whole like separate like avatar toggle and like learned to like change the way you like talked or something, you know what I mean? It just seems like ridiculous even trying to describe it.
Like playing a character like 24/7, right?
And the thing is like everybody does do that a little bit, right, in terms of like the way they choose to act and what clothes they wear and stuff. So like it gives everybody an opportunity to get all the benefits, if anything, of like being able to control your outward facing identity, right? Everyone
without actually putting on something that doesn't feel true to yourself.
Yeah, you can. It's like a win-win because there's definitely a benefit of that internet aspect, right, where you can really let parts of yourself shine and like build and like forge and hone parts of yourself that you like. And in real life, you know, I mean, it is real life, I guess, in the physical space, right, where you don't have as much command over your like form, right? You don't have as much of an opportunity to let that shine forward. Like, I don't know about you two, but like when I meet someone in real life and I'm making friends with them, like talking about like making art and music and all that kind of stuff, it really doesn't come out that quickly. It's not that easy to like put forward like, what you do.
Have that conversation sooner rather than later, right? It's different than like in VR. If you're talking to somebody, like if you meet them, you're usually wearing your own art. Like,
yeah,
generally,
or you're
wearing your own art already. Just because you've worked on an avatar for yourself, right?
Yeah, the potential to express yourself with your form in like meta spaces like this is it's hardly been scratched, right? Even if we do land on a middle ground, like, oh, it turns out like the best we want to do is just like, you know, like an anime girl, right, or a cute like bunny, with all of the creative flair. You know, there's so much opportunity to show everyone like who you are. You know, it's not who you want to be. I think it's just as genuine of an existence.
Yeah, I mean, there's still like, you know, to some points I'm seeing in the chat, yeah, like, you know, yeah, there's still gonna be assholes. Like, that's just unavoidable. But I think by and large, I think what we're more specifically talking about is a creative community, and especially if you have any experience with, you know, working within creative communities, it's really striking the difference in support and the difference in enthusiasm and the difference in just like genuine support. I guess that's the thing that's probably the most shocking about it is like you know, I mean, there's always going to be some fucking villains. There's always going to be some people that are you know, whatever.
Yeah, watch out, I'm coming.
Right?
Yeah, but like, you know, for the most part,
we're just talking about antagonists.
Yeah, it's overwhelmingly positive, you know, from a creative, you know, perspective.
Yeah, I think even for the people that I would call like, you know, jerks, I've seen a lot of this space be like net positive for them in the end, because they like, you know, usually they adopt that default, like they're an asshole everywhere online. Usually, like the kind of person who's an asshole in VR chat, they're an asshole everywhere online. They're just also in VR chat.
That dude's sitting at the back
even
of the
that
card
I've
shop
seen,
being snarky to the teenagers.
Right. Even that though, I've seen mellow out over time, where like they've realized, like, you know, as their friends list fills up and then unfills up because people don't want to be around them, they realize like, oh, maybe I should change. And the nice part is like that maybe I should change can then get. Whereas in real life, right, you drive people away and there's not infinite people around you physically in real life. Like you only have, you know, 100 people that you see on a day-to-day basis, like a weekly basis.
Yeah, your coworkers, your bar flies.
Right? Shit. Like, once they all start disliking you, that's that. Where like in VR chat, if you decide to be a nice person, you can go meet somebody new.
We gotta hold on. It was something.
I'm just a bitch-ass ghost. Oh, god damn it, I'm not even cool. In the afterlife, I'm still a bitch. Oh no. Oh no. I'm just a bitch-ass ghost. Oh no. No, wait, no. Don't watch me duke. Don't watch me take a bitch-ass duke. No. No.
The signal pirates are really trolling around, huh?
Yeah, so I guess this team
fuck God.
of antagonists.
That could have been way worse.
That was yeah.
Well, I present the Corvo Fractus signal pirates. Yeah, the bitch ass ghost. I feel for you, homie. That's got to be rough. You died and you just out there being a bitch still. That's rough, but
forever. Yeah.
Trying to take a dick, you know. I mean,
imagine
I feel like sometimes.
You gotta you can't do a lot when you're a ghost, especially if you're a bitch ass ghost. So if you're trying to like fix your grave or whatever thing ghosts have to do, you know, if you suck and you're like weak and you have to be around forever until you get that shit figured out.
And
That's
you
like
can't
mad.
even take
wow.
a shit. Like someone's.
You can't even take a
Someone's
shit.
always in there with a camera and like an EMF meter, just trying to read your presence.
Dude, oh my god, they're just the
Uh.
ghost hunting show's just paparazzi, dude. The
Yeah.
ghost right, goddamn, dude.
Kinda, actually, yeah.
I'm just wearing I know my basketball shorts are too big or whatever, dude. I'm just like trying to take shit and have a coffee.
I hope we hear from the bitch ass ghost again. I feel for you. I mean,
I'm really.
I need an update.
if you're listening,
Can I-
you're welcome to come
Ghost lore,
on the
please.
cast and just sort it out. I can try to help you. You know, I'm not bad at untangling knots for people, so I'm there for you, bitch ass ghost.
There's like I think there might be like a club or something that like
Yeah.
it might be
There's this
true.
club that it seems like it would be for people like that. That
Let
are.
me- Hey, this is a good
Fantastic.
time to plug this shit. I'm playing at Ghost Club tonight. Ooh.
Oh yeah.
You got real Ghost Club? They only booked me for bitch ass Ghost Club. It's like
It's
there's only
all
one
toilets.
CRT, and it just
There's
fucking-
only
yeah, it's all
one
toilets
CRT
and
and
one
like
CRT.
it's kind of lopsided and it just
Like
shakes.
Price
a
is
little
Right
bit.
reruns
That's it.
from the 80s. It sucks, dude. There's no music even. I just have to sit there.
That's well, you might
Yeah,
want to talk to
Ghost
someone about that
fucking-
because that seems like they trolled
It's
you. a little
rude,
bit. Yeah,
but you know
that's
I'm gonna
fucking
show
rude.
up. No, I'm not gonna bail on the gig just because like it sucks.
Yeah, I'm stoked on it. I resurrected one of my babies, one of my synths that is one of my favorites, the Electron Mono Machine.
Ooh, let's
And
go.
Sophie actually rest Sophie's soul, but Sophie actually was like probably the most notable individual to rip the Mono Machine, and I've had it for a long time. I've had it for maybe 6-7 years now. Traveled with it all over the place. Brought it to Cambodia and
Yo, what?
Thailand and Vietnam. Yeah, I brought it with me everywhere, and yeah, and it just needed a little love, a little repair. So it's repaired and it's joining the squad. I think tonight I'm gonna rip. So I got the Octatrack, the Mono Machine, the Digitact, and the Machine Drum and Analog Heat, and I threw a Zoya into the mix. And yeah, we're gonna be partying tonight. So I'm really excited for that.
Is it gonna be like blended still? Like where you're blending the two, or is it gonna be all?
You have a Zoya?
all synths?
Ooh.
Yeah, I got the Zoya. It's everything. Some of the beats are everything firing. Actually, so I was practicing before this. A lot of how I'm doing what I'm doing now is I'm like using some loops that I have already created, or a lot of loops that I already have created, and then I like bring them into the mix, and I can queue them up on the Octatrack so I can hear what they sound like before I introduce them.
Yeah,
and then,
yeah.
And then I bring them in, and then I'll queue up another box, and then I'll just write something over the top of that on the spot, and then I'll bring that in, and then I kind of do a mix
Right.
of that sort of thing, and yeah, keeps me on my stumps, on my toes. I don't like toes, but keeps me on my fucking.
Keeps you off your toes, so you don't have to think about them.
Yeah.
I get it. That's
Yeah.
tight. Yeah, it's gonna be real rad. The first week was awesome.
God.
After the intermission, now we can go back
Yeah.
see the VJs live.
Yeah. Also, this is the first time in VR chat someone's doing visuals that isn't me for me. So I'm excited. Spaghetti is doing my visuals.
Yo.
And
Spaghetti's gonna nail it for sure.
yeah,
That was actually really fun. It's I mean, let's talk about that TVH
Yeah.
because
hmm
it's something I think is a bit more common at like physical venues, is having someone else doing the VJing. A lot of Japanese clubs seem to mess with it compared to American clubs, but it's really cool. It like you can build a little team, especially in VR where it's less like you hide the visuals guy in a little booth or whatever. It really feels collaborative. You're working together to make a vibe.
Imagine that collaboration. Imagine
Yeah,
true
well, right.
collaboration. And this is a conversation that
Yeah.
I think we're all individually having with one another, like all on the periphery. Every conversation I've had lately has been like, gotta work together, guys. We gotta get it together. This is what if we want to bring it up and pick it up to the next level. Look what can happen if we
Right.
all pitch in together, and it's unavoidable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's just only so much like one person can do, right? Like in limited time in the day. There's limited sets you can play. There's limited.
Yep.
You're trying to do visuals for your own sets. There's limited amount of time to do there.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm fully
people
fucking
like
capped.
Spaghetti and like Pupla and yeah, Tuna and all those people, like the really credible VJs.
Yeah, I'm
Like,
fully
hey.
capped. I'm fully stretched. I'm VJing. I'm building worlds. I'm writing
Dude, yeah,
music.
I'm
I'm completely fucking
stupid as
capped right
hell.
now. Mhm.
I don't know why any of us are doing this. It doesn't make any sense. I think maybe just because like you see a zone and a vibe, and it just fills you with such a spirit. You know,
Well, and
like
you
get,
see an immediate
you're
way to get that
infected
out
with
there.
the
Like if
vision.
you build a thing for your visuals, you
Yeah.
can just show it to somebody like tomorrow, right? So it's not
Sure.
like you're gonna be.
Oh yeah. Whoa, Frank.
It's not like,
Um,
Frank is on a mission here. I'm trying not to get too distracted.
Frank found a
Yeah,
body.
no,
Swat. See, no, I think you're onto something, Swat. Like,
whole body, yeah.
yeah, Swat said everyone delegated to what they're best in, which I think is like a complicated, like sort of. I think it's gonna. There is an aspect of like humility in collaboration, especially the bigger the project, right? In terms of, you know, with like say 14 people working for say 10 months on say one VR chat map, if there's any of those out there, like, you know, if you do one thing, you do one thing, and like there does come a point where it's like, well, it's not really smart for me to start meddling like a ton, you know, beyond like giving feedback and saying what other people think about a thing, right? Like if I'm just the guy who does like the shaders, right? I should be talking to everybody and we have to work together, but like there's that part of me that caused like me, and I'm assuming you two, to like start doing everything yourself. Like I want to know how that works and I want to be able to tinker it and get it just right. Like that part of your brain's hard to like shut
It's
down.
the kind of brain, yeah. It's the brain that's like, I want to know everything. I want to know all the
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I'll mention at the very beginning of this show is that I want to know how the thing got built that I'm using, right? Not
Yes,
just using the thing, which is
absolutely.
that's just like uncurable tinker brain is
Right. It's tinker
what
brain.
I
That's
like.
really what it is.
Tinker brain is what I usually call it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's not like
But there's also a way. There's also a place to put that aside and like find a spot in a team where like you're doing your best work in your best
Right.
sort of skill set, and then still doing tinker on the side, but in a way that's not detrimental to like your output as an artist.
Mhm.
Yes, I think, especially once all of us, you know, kind of have that learning curve, right, and the tools at our disposal are kind of like we reach the end of that limit, right? Because now there are more tools probably than any of us have ever been exposed to at once ever, right? Like going from
That are all free.
like just being a
and-
normal person who just I do a little music and a little art to
Mhm.
VR
Yep.
chat. It's like, okay, Blender, Touch Designer, Substance Painter, like VJing, you know,
Yeah.
everything.
Unity,
it's
Magic,
all
everything. Yeah,
It's
it's all at once,
Twitch,
and it's all
OBS.
free, and there's
Yeah.
infinite
And it's all
tutorials for all
free
of it.
too. Yeah.
Y'all are
So
listing
everyone's
off what's
chat
open
talk.
on my desktop right now, basically.
No,
Yeah,
same.
literally,
I'm actually
same,
seeing what's open on
literally.
my desktop.
I was actually just listening. Yeah. And it's just like I do think it is like an explosive kind of like growth period where everybody is digging into that, and inevitably, once you see all the things, whether you like it or not, I think we're all going to kind of find what we gravitate towards naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happens,
not,
I think it's going to be a lot easier to just let the people who are so much better than you
yeah,
at those tools, and you're okay with that because you have your tools that you like.
yeah.
do that thing.
There's got to be a period of exploration, and like to the point, again, what Shaggy just posted in the chat talking about burnout. Burnout is a huge thing, and I've actually had to learn. The other day I went so hard that one of my contacts fused to my fucking eye. I guess I wasn't blinking or something, and
Yeah,
I sat there for like 8 hours straight, just like, and
Wow.
you know, I had to just like,
Yeah.
there's been multiple times because I appeared at the end of December, and then built a venue in January, and through that, and ever
God,
since then I haven't turned this shit off. Like ever since I've been going nonstop. But I have to take days. Like I just took a day last weekend where I was like, how I have to tell myself is like, by not working on this shit, you are working on this shit. Like that's how I have to trick myself into doing
Usually.
it. Like that. Like I have to get away. And if I don't get away, then like everything else will suffer for it. So even though I'm taking a break, and even though I'm getting away from stuff, especially because you have the time dilation thing that happens in this world. But like here nor there, a good trick that I've found for myself is to look at it like taking this walk, working out really hard or doing whatever it is that you know you should do for yourself, for your body, is working on your art, because you are your art. You are a little bit of everything about your life. So that was pretty pivotal for me, like a good like breakthrough for myself, because since I started in January, I've only taken a couple breaks, like small breaks. Yeah, so
tiny breaks.
Yeah, it adds up, and goes too fast.
Yeah, I like the trick that ended up working for me. I mean, with a lot of things, right? Because I think everyone has that issue in some part of their life, even if it's just like, oh, I'm staying up late all the time. Like, I try as hard as possible to. I've started like taking mental note or sometimes literal notes of the positive like turnouts, right? Because like being like, oh man, see how sleepy I am today from staying up and how this would be easier, that you should just really go to bed earlier. That doesn't like really like mesh with my brain. But being like, wow, I am cruising. I've had so much energy today and I've been able to focus on everything and it's been great. And it's because I did this thing. And the more I remind myself, I felt this way because I like got a full night's sleep, or I felt this way creatively because I took a break or worked on a personal project that was just fun and not part of like the hashtag grind or whatever, right? Like reminding myself of all the positive moments is like I've started like building a dictionary. This is like something I hadn't thought of until recently. It's just like the more I have of those, the easier it's like, I can visualize it feeling good in tomorrow. And as long as I can visualize that, I'm able to stave off the like visualizing the like ambient feeling of falling behind, right? Like that which is nonsense feeling, but I need to counteract it with something. I can't just be like, that's illogical. And just feel better.
Perfectly logical being.
Right.
I'm going to go to sleep early. And that kind of like the whole the loop of like beating yourself up over it and then trying not to do it again, but beating yourself over it again is like that kind of negative energy starts to diffuse other stuff also. Like it doesn't always work, and then when it does, even if it does work, you're still like, a little bit annoyed with yourself, and that kind of carries over.
Yeah, negative reinforcement requires you to feel a little bit negative.
So. A little bit negative, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Frank, I told you not to take too many Benadryl before the stream.
Frank is really on one.
Wait, we weren't supposed to take the Benadryl?
Not before.
I think I read that.
Took the wrong drugs.
I took like half of it.
I didn't take much of a break until before it was like January, right? I mean, I've done just a billion things since then.
New Year's, dude. New Year's.
Yeah, New Year's.
You were right. You were so right.
Until now. And then, I just took a 2-week long break. I went up to my family has a cabin in the mountains in Mexico, and I pretty much disconnected from like everything for a while. I didn't have my PC set up the entire time. I just like hiked and talked to people around town and hung out for a long time, and that was
town rules. I've come around. Town owns.
Town owns. Yeah. No, the place I was in is just this like little like mountain town, and it's very like, I don't know. It's about itself, right? Like they're not worried about like, I don't know, wider things. It's weird to go from like a space that's so worried about like big picture things all the time. It feels like VR chat, where like everybody's talking about big ideas and doing big things, and everything can potentially be seen by like 1,000 people. And to go from that to a space that's like, 700 people live in this town, and that's it, and that's all that'll ever be, because the town like is never gonna grow. It's locked in by national forest. Going from like a very like world-focused space to a very local-focused space was a really nice, refreshing thing.
Hell yeah.
Just like remind me like, oh yeah, okay, there's like a couple different mindsets about things, and a lot of the like nicest little vibes get crafted when you're kind of focusing local, and people just kind of happen to wander into it. Just a lot of like reflection time about the art that I'm making and the like way VR plays with social stuff, especially.
Dude, yeah. Reflection time is so important.
Hold on.
2 weeks was enough.
Hold on. Fuck. This one. Fuck.
Hacker vision. Become the hacker. Enter the password. Become the mainframe. Jacked to the tits with access. Forever leaked. Hackavision. Hack the system. Hack it. Hack the universe. Dissect the Fibonacci. Enter the Code Cabal. Superlative hacker exquisite activity. Hackavision. Hack your dreams come true. Hack these hoes. Hackavision knows no bounds. The elite are waiting. Get into the system. You must have access. You must fucking hack. Get in. Enter. There is no network that can stop you. You are limitless. You are boundless. The mainframe awaits. The Gibson is waiting to be penetrated. Forced entry into a new dimension of binary paradise. Crack the code. Dictionary attack. Exquisite form. Push harder. Push deeper. Hack further. Hackavision. 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 You're in. That's it. That's it.
Wow. Well,
Wow.
That was I like want to. Can I get these Signal Pirates a beer? I want to go to beer with these people at some point. That was
Sorry, I gotta go hack. Real
that's
quick.
yeah. Sorry, I really gotta go. I gotta go.
I actually don't give a
I gotta do
fuck
some
about
pen
VR
testing. Give me a
creativity
second
or whatever
here.
this
Wait a
dumb shit
minute.
is. Yeah, I'm here for hacking.
Dictionary attack. Those were definitely hacking.
Dude, we're about to hack.
I feel
because-
like deep desire to hack the
brought
planet.
to you by Hackervision. Apparently, hopefully see more Hackervision too. I mean, I feel boosted. Like I feel like I just got stats off that message. To be honest,
I'm
Yeah,
I
I
feel
feel
like
motivated. Primarily
I'm
to
gonna
hack.
recreate that as a
also for
screen
other
space
things.
shitter. So I just get that ambient
I
motivation.
feel motivated to hack and
24/7.
also mildly horny.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hack. Oh,
it's
shit,
just-
Frank, run
it's
away.
fine. Yeah,
Or
don't
look
look
at it?
Don't not look at it. Yeah, just stay looking at it. Close the door again.
libido stats
Yeah,
and
good.
hacking
Good.
stats
You're
in
good.
one. That
Yeah.
was a
You don't
powerful
wanna-
signal.
Look away from that one.
Dude, yeah. Well, not
I'll
enough
head around
people
to the
are
next
like
bedroom. Go.
acknowledging. Yeah, there's just an underlying horniness to getting hacked. Sorry, I can't tell if Frank is being killed. I hope not.
No, Frank closed the door on that one, which is what you're supposed to do there, I think. I know that SCP.
Dude,
Not from
sometimes you
this
gotta learn to
world.
close the door on it. I think
Sometimes
that's
you
anyway,
gotta
that's
close
what we're
the
saying
door
about
on
burnout,
blown
dude.
up salamander people. What the fuck was that? I just looked at it for a second. It looked
That's
like a.
that's the one that's
It's like
stays
a
in the corner of the
paper
room, and if you
mache
look-
shit.
It's like an angel from Doctor Who. If you look away from it, it kills you really badly.
Probably,
Yeah, if you like.
or it
you
just
die.
like gives you
I've met some people like
gives you a
that.
pep talk. Yeah, same.
gives you
Absolutely.
a nice. You look away and it goes, "Stun." We need
Is
to
it
have
about
this
time you finished that one project? The first,
Is it
remember
about
that first
time?
project you ever put off and never finished?
We work on that
You
shit.
gotta finish that one.
God, oh, that would be the worst demon.
Yeah.
like
And remember
the
the
demon just
second
has
project?
two projects
Here it is,
with
and
it.
here's a list in order of all of the ones you have to finish, starting
That's-
with the oldest.
Oh,
That
That's
one is
actually what
no.
happens when you die. Is there someone
All the
that meets
projects
you
you
and
ever
they're
did.
like, here's a list of they're not checking the list for like to make sure you tasted every fruit. They're like, let's see, horny goblin 170 dot wave. This appears to be incomplete song. What about?
No.
I mean, I don't know if you guys don't name
shit.
your
No,
song-
no. This is actually
Dude, yeah.
giving me anxiety right now. Like I have weird.
Dude,
all
nah,
those
I gotta go
unfinished
finish.
really
I gotta go.
projects
Everyone has their
anxiety.
horny goblin 170.wave.
Here we have
Yeah.
4,326 unfinished phone scribbles of you just drawing something in the corner of a page while you're on the phone.
Oh my god, yes. That one's the worst actually. I have like anyone who looks at like the notes on my phone would think I was absolutely insane because I would say probably 50% of like the logos that I've designed ever have been drawn hastily with my finger on my phone screen in the Notes app like 5 seconds before falling asleep. Like, I will I'll be like, oh shit, what if I did this with the shape? Bust out the phone and just draw it, just try desperately to draw it before like passing out enough so that it's like vaguely recognizable as an idea. But I don't delete them. They're fun to look back and I'm like, that looks horrible.
Do you
Wait, is that an anime girl that can?
I do this thing where while I'm falling asleep, I try to learn like right up until the moment I fall asleep, and I'll have like my iPad on my chest or whatever, and I'll just keep falling asleep but keep waking up and rewinding it the same, like, instead of like the smart thing to do is obviously like you fucking fell asleep, just call it.
Yeah.
But I will back it up like 10 times and be like, no, I got this.
Oh
What
my
the
God.
fuck is that about?
Yeah. And then I'll wake up and I'll be like 2/3 of the way through this Blender tutorial that looks really helpful, and I'll be like, I don't remember any of this.
Yeah.
Like, why do I remember like 10 sentences from the middle and 1 at the beginning? And that's like it.
and none of the node magic in the middle. Oops.
Yeah, none of the
Dude,
actually important
my
shit
God.
that teaches you how to do it.
Yeah.
Nah.
Stuff.
I'll go back and rewatch it.
Yeah,
it's
no,
like-
I'm definitely guilty of sleep reading, except with like Blender tutorials, because I can convince myself that's productive.
Mhm.
Like, I don't want to go
Yeah.
to sleep. It's that, like, you want to steal your time back at the end of the night. Except that
Yeah.
I got really good at not doing it with unproductive things, and then now it's just like, oh, a Blender tutorial, and so I'll watch that. It's like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
There's a thing
Oh,
about
yeah.
what you just said, stealing your time back at the end of the night. That is a great way to put that, because that's what I feel. I feel like when I'm that time I've given myself permission to wind down and to go to sleep is the only real time that I give myself to just like have a free for all and do whatever I want. And because the rest of my day, like, I am just going. I'm just like going from top to bottom. Like,
Dude, yeah.
I'm on it. So that moment, that time, I'm like, yeah, I'll give myself 20 minutes to fucking chill out or whatever.
Yeah,
will turn into 2 hours because I'm starving
Oh my
myself
God, yeah.
for
Like, oh, that-
for
like,
that
for the rest
space.
of the day. Yeah, totally. For me, like, the truth of it is, like, I'm like kind of totally fine with not soaking in the video, because like I just need more like moments to let my mind wander. And maybe this is maybe just a weird ADHD thing, but like I've noticed that my mind wanders if I like fake have something to focus on so I can not do it. Like, I have trouble like letting my mind like completely wander if I just give myself no stimulus. It's just like sit and think and have an idea. The capital
Well, that's
I,
almost
like,
stressful. It almost wraps back around to being stressful.
right? Yeah. Well, it's like just like instead of letting your mind wander, you're like telling it to take you on a journey, and like that's just not how it works for me. Like, it's such a meme, right? It's like such a stereotype, but so much of like the stuff I end up doing, like just like pops into my head, like in the shower or some shit, or like when I'm driving, because it's like I'm doing
Driving
something
is
else.
driving
I'm
is
not,
one
like,
for me. Showers are actually very, very like meditative, and I usually am not like super idea heavy in the shower, which is weird.
Really?
Oh, me?
That's
They just
everybody.
they're gone.
But-
There's static, and then there's just like, oh, and then back
Yeah.
to static.
Um,
That's like, I
but
totally
no,
get that.
driving is the one for me. I cannot stop but like think of 17 things that I want to do when I get home when I'm driving, and the worst part is that I can't write them down. I started taking like a long time ago. I started taking audio notes on my phone when I was driving.
Yep.
I'll like
Yeah,
pull out
me
my
too.
phone and I'll just like talk
I'll
into
do
it
a
for, like,
recording. Yep.
15 minutes.
I
about
do
a thing
that
I was
shit
thinking
too,
about.
but it's cracked.
I'll
It's like
stop.
it's not useful. It'll be like, all right,
yeah.
pterodactyl wings, but you painted that shit blue and you
Yeah.
stretched that out real long, like some scrotum type
Dude.
shit. And
Yeah,
that's my
there's some
Yeah,
really
yeah,
good
yeah.
stuff,
Oh
and I'll be
my
like,
god, yeah.
There's some super
You're like,
cracked ones
what does
from,
this
like,
even mean?
like
Yeah.
November or so, when I started spending when I first started spending like 60 hours a week in VR, or 60 hours every couple of weeks in VR.
Yeah.
There was like some really cracked ones about like building social groups and like weird ideas around that. Like how does that work? What happens when you get to choose from 3,000 people instead of 100 people around you? Like what are your priorities change there?
Eye color
there's some-
of their avatar.
but-
Next question.
Next question. Next, please. Thank you. Good
Look,
to know
I gotta
that,
make a quick choice.
I know that I've nailed it twice then with my Nanachi and my Avali. We're good.
Yeah, you've done good. No, you've done
Unless
real
there's
good
something you're
work
not telling
with
me.
avatars. Hold on, let me just open up Discord.
You follow the
Uh,
eyes.
we got
No,
there's another
Oh,
one
shit.
coming. Another one coming through. Hold on.
alright, buckle up.
Feels so nice with his fingers, alright. Stretch them, stretch them, stretch them fingers. Notice how I can pick something up like this if I want to do a small perhaps. I can do it with that pen. I can do it with this finger. Roll. Have you ever eaten a finger roll? Happy little thing. Yes. You've ever expressed magnificent. Look at them. Look at how they express. Look at the expression. Look at the expression. Yes. Hold me. Hold me.
Wow. Wow.
I have
That was
come
awesome.
entirely around on wanting to get a beer with the Signal Pirates. I'd like to do some mushrooms with the Signal, please.
I think
I
they're
gotta
ahead of
go.
you from.
That was
from
an
the looks of
earthy
it.
ass.
They're definitely
Yeah.
way ahead of me. They're like above. They're filling out whatever's next after mushrooms.
You know, finger
Um,
dexterity is important. You
I
know?
want whatever they've got.
It's so it's so important. Sorry, I'm still thinking about the fingers. I'm not all here. Gotta do this exercise.
I'm like looking at my hands now. I'm on that. Like, what are hands? I so entirely forgot.
I
what was
literally
gonna
don't
say.
even remember what.
Wow,
Yeah,
yeah, no, that one blanked my brain
I'm
out
just-
really bad.
that was a signal. That's like a
I
signal
think we're gonna
jam,
talk-
the likes of which
I
I've
think
never
we-
experienced.
Yeah, that was really, really good. Frank has cracked out on their hands now. We're really going in.
Frank's
Um,
like, what?
Everybody in chat, take a moment.
Why do they have
Consider
5
your
fingers?
hands.
They only have 4.
Consider
Yeah.
your own hands.
Honestly, I'm gonna tell you something right now.
Yeah.
I've encountered the similar signals from this particular camp, and then I got into doing some finger exercise, and that shit feels good, feels
Yeah, no,
relaxing. You don't
it
realize
is
your
really good,
shit's
actually,
fucking
yeah.
crumpled up, dude. Like,
There's one I
Oh
do.
God.
It's
I'm
like
feeling
wearing
it
controllers all the time,
so bad.
especially the index controllers. They're kind of compressing, and like you wrap your hands in a weird way. It's not
Mhm.
normal.
Oh yeah.
I like to do there's like a whole stretch routine that I do with my wrists and my fingers that like keeps it limber because I don't know. I do everything on a computer. I don't want none of that like arthritis or whatever early onset finger.
Dude,
health.
I just wanna let me
But
control
thanks.
the computer with my head. I don't give a shit. I'll just use my brain
Well,
and
yeah.
I'll just like get carpal tunnel in every joint of my body. It's
hopefully
fine.
BCI is good enough that
I'll
I
just
can
be
just do
sitting there cracking out.
mental control.
No, that's true.
Something in here, but
so,
Yeah,
so I got a
I want to
question
meet
for
the
you.
aliens that they made
Yeah.
the index controllers using, because that shit does not fit my hands. Yeah, what's the question?
What have you had the hardest time adjusting to, or what's a challenge that you routinely run into or that you ran into? It can be one that you're going through or one that you've kind of overcome by virtue of being a part of this kind of social space in VR.
actual creative inspiration, like finding a way to like transfer creative energy into like completed output.
Finishing.
There's like a million little like half finished sort of nonsense things that never had any like clear like vision or direction from prior to joining the sort of VR space, the like the big collaborative. Even though it's not like directly collaborative, it's still like you bounce ideas off of people, and people like pretty directly inspire stuff. The art they make feeds into the art other people make, and there's a bunch of stuff from before I found like a crew, like a group that doesn't really have much direction, and then a bunch of stuff after that that's like, oh yeah, okay, cool. This is like, I feel good about completing this and showing it to people and bringing people to it now, which is really nice.
That's good. So you in the like, did it kind of work itself out, or you had to hunt it down?
It kind of worked itself out just because like I don't know, I will, if I see like a cool creative space, I'll go towards it. I'll walk that direction. So it wasn't much of a like, actively like sussing out, oh, this person is an artist that I want to like. There's not like a list but there's like a energy that I'm chasing. That kind of worked. The energy was there. I just had to kind of see it, stick around.
What about you,
So-
Lamp?
Yeah. I think it's a tricky thing to put succinctly, so I'm trying to find the words for it. It helped me realize how much more inspiring art is when you see all of it, right? When you actually get to know like the people who make it, right? Because I mean, you said it offhand, and a lot of times people say it's like a half joke about like self-cover. It's like you are your art, right? Like, but like even if you want to get super clinical about it, like it's hard to get inspired by a final product, right? Like, there is like when you see a person and you get to know them like pretty well, which is something like this space affords you that I think the broader internet is pretty lacking in. Seeing how they channel like their being right into like creative output is to me that process to me is so much more actionable as inspiration than any final product, right? Even if I don't particularly like, even if I wouldn't find the final product like engaging or like super fascinating, which I know is kind of what Barry was saying, so it's a little bit cheating, but for me, like actually like getting to know people who do the shit that I like, and like stuff around it is something that I didn't realize was missing, right? I could get to know artists if I wanted to in like in like spaces around me, right? But by and large, those are not going to be people who are doing the same things that I do, right? Like we've always talked about how great the internet is for connecting people or whatever, but the extent of that connection, it was pretty surface level. So being able to like actually get to know people and see how, you know, the river, right, that is like their process, like their creative spirit, like creates that awesome smooth rock you found at the beach,
Right.
rather than just the rock itself, is like,
Well, there's a lot
I
to
don't know.
that, right?
Yeah.
There's a component to art and certain forms of art where the art
Right.
is just kind of yeah, it's without knowing the backstory, without knowing the artist, the art is sort of winds up, you know, maybe not really being all that remarkable. I cannot think of this artist's name. Who is the guy that painted just like they were just like big blobs of color, basically.
Yep. Oh my God, I knew you were gonna ask.
Fuck, what?
Hold on. I know it's. I have to.
Hold on, wait.
It's not
Chat
Pollock.
is going.
It's
Salvador
is it
Daley
um.
So
It'll come to me
he
in a minute.
painted-
It'll come to me in a minute.
He painted like, so his exhibits would be, his paintings would like replace where the windows and the doorways would be.
Whoa.
But
That's
they
amazing.
got more and more moody and thick over time.
Talk about
and
Rothko?
Rothko, yeah. So Rothko,
Okay.
Rothko might not be all of that interesting
yeah.
if you don't know the backstory and you don't know what's going on with Rothko. Like, you just sit there and look at it and be like, okay, it's some color.
It's red. It's like red.
And if you don't see, if you don't see the you know, how Rothko progresses as an artist over time, how the color palettes change, how the story changes, how his life changes, and how that all plays out, not nearly as interesting for people to just like walk up to and receive. But some people actually, and it's the difference. Some people walk up to that thing and be like, cool, nice, some paint. And there's other people that will walk up to it and just start crying, which was like actually Rothko's goal, from what I understand, was like Rothko wanted to be able to imitate Mozart with paint, and wanted to be able to like hit you in the chest with feeling, with paint and with color, the same way that like a symphony could, which I think is really a really interesting goal for a visual artist. I mean, in the back of your head when you're creating art, ideally you're thinking about like creating some sort of meaning or propelling some kind of feeling, but you know, that's some shit right there. Like, you're like, I want to hit you in your fucking chest with some color and some
Right.
form here.
Like,
But without knowing all that, yeah, you might not be as impacted by it. So like, you're sort of living a bunch of like little micro moments of that, and that's a great. I really love that observation, actually, because I think that is a part of what's so spellbinding about what we're experiencing right now.
and honestly, like to zoom out, to just not make it, you know, purely about like this space here, right? I think in general, like that training yourself as someone who like enjoys art, to when you see something that doesn't immediately strike you or is just very out of your bubble, like I try to make my first instinct as often as possible like, oh man, what's the story behind this? Not even literally like, well, it's a reference to this, you know, story that I liked as a kid, but just like, what kind of person makes this? It's like a vibe. This whole path of like existence led to that thing that is just so that I don't take it in immediately. I don't understand it. Like, whoa, this is so different, right? Like that is like how what's always like drawn me to unusual like art and artists in the first place, and trying to have that be like a first instinct when you see like art you don't like or understand, like trying to remember it's a byproduct of someone feeling something, you know.
Well, I like
to just like a better understanding and a better
visual art that
appreciation.
like has magic to it, where it's like, I don't know how they did that.
Yeah.
Like, I've got no clue how that got put there. Like
Right.
like I don't know, multimedia artists that like, you know, make, you know, painting scale works that then go in like gallery walls, but it's not, you know, oils. It's not like, you know, following any kind of established style. It's just like, I took some fucking tinfoil and it looks like this now. And
Yeah.
Right.
that kind of stuff was super appealing to me, because it's like, it's very
Yes.
like, what's around, I'm going to make it into a feeling and put it on a wall, and you get to look at it. Kind of like, you
Yeah.
want to understand the process. Like, how did they choose what they chose? That kind of thing. And the same is true for like, I mean, God, like, you know, maybe zooming back in again, the 3D space that we're in is like,
Yeah, sure.
you know, I think Finn and I talked a little bit about like shaders are basically magic, right? Like they're
Yeah.
they're unconstrained by like vertex space. You can just make a shader that does effectively anything, right?
Right.
And to a lot of people, they just seem like magic, right? There's
Uh-huh.
the
yeah.
understanding of the math and programming required.
Wait, shaders
is
aren't
so
magic?
great. Yeah, right. It's just like the understanding of the programming and math underneath is so great that it's required to understand it is so great that you just interpret it as magic instead. And so you can pull out like some really crazy stuff you've made in the art chat, show people, and be, what the hell? It's really impactful
Oh yeah. Like absolutely. I
in a way that makes people like,
what
well,
did I just? Oh no.
yeah, I'm seeing a.
Okay. You know,
That was a hot beat.
Extremely energetic. Yeah, that was a really hot
That's
beat.
So
I think, you know, I think I got some copyright shit to sort out with that one.
yeah, Lizzo's not going to be happy about that. But
I'm not happy about it. They stole that shit.
oh fuck.
So, you know, You never know. You just never know what's coming.
Was there
You never.
bugs?
You never know what's coming. Oh, look.
Dude,
Frank.
I'll talk to Dagger. What
Talk
the?
to Dagger. Talk to Dagger.
That's how I'm feeling.
The penguin, I assume.
Oh, that's
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't care anymore. Actually, I was excited at the idea of like a VR chat map that asks you to talk to inanimate objects, but
So I'm gonna answer. I'm gonna answer my own question about the,
ahead.
the
Yeah,
please.
challenge
Please do.
that I've had. The challenge that I've had is allowing myself to be welcome. And really,
Uh-huh.
really sit with that and really like believe that and to not feel, because I think we all experience times where we feel like an outsider in that place, or like it's easy to sort of trip yourself out and be like, oh, you know, like I'm, you know, no one's coming up and talking to me, or you know, oh, they like you can't you have part of the signal chain. Like we don't have full body language, really. We don't have like all the micro expressions in the face and stuff. We have
God.
so there's
Yeah,
this
I know.
whole space where, you know, your imagination gets to like, you know, fill in the blanks, and it's not always positive. Sometimes you're like, you know, that person's looking at me weird, or like that was a weird reaction,
Yeah.
or whatever. And so in terms of specifically in feeling welcome, I've spent a long time being on my own. I've spent a long time being in a vacuum. I've spent a long time like doing a ton of shit and having no one give a fuck about it. And
Yeah.
so it's hard to sometimes just accept that number one, no one's thinking about you that much. You're really not that big of a deal. It doesn't matter how big of a
What?
deal you are. Like no one is really that concerned. And even when people really do care, they care, and that's awesome. But like nothing is nearly the magnitude that you think it is. You know, so it's good to remember that. And I say you because I'm externalizing, but I'm supposed to be talking about me. And so I have to make a concerted effort to be like, I am welcome here, and you know,
Oh yeah.
and my contributions are welcome here, and what I'm putting forward is, you know, gonna be helpful and wanted and well received. And I've had to look through my own bullshit to make sure that, like, you know, I stick to that.
Dude, yeah, it's a huge act of faith, right? To just like I don't know, to trust everybody like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Especially when it's like something like a creative endeavor, you know, because that's, you can't like, you don't often like, you have to do that to everybody, right? You can't just like give like, oh, I give my trust like a couple friends who I like really, I'm just gonna 100% believe they got my back, you know, they totally enjoy my company, and I'm taking them at their word and stuff. But like when you're doing something creative, that makes it so much trickier, because you got to broadcast that, like that faith out to everyone that consumes it, and you have to start like having faith that the people who spend time with you, you know, are invested in you as like a person, right? Like I like try really hard to make sure that the people I spend time with and you know, invested in are, you know, even if they dropped all their creative pursuits, and even if they dropped, you know, all that shit, you know, we'd still be tight. Like that kind of stuff, like trusting everyone to meet you there, in that space is like, it's real tough.
That's a good point, actually. Like the people you are really choosing to like dedicate a lot of time to should be people who are sort of with you on a more core level than, like, you know, maybe you're into the same like aesthetic, right? I think it's pretty easy to
It's a good
make
way to
friends
meet people
online
for sure.
It's good to meet people for sure, and like I think it's really easy to make friends online by that metric first, as opposed to like by,
Oh, yeah.
are we gonna get along well in a voice call? Like, are we gonna get along well if we hang out?
Yeah.
Doing like kind of whatever, right?
And
VR maybe gives you a bit more of a chance to kind of suss out, you know, are you gonna get along on like a day-to-day basis? Like, are you just gonna vibe as people outside of your sort of aesthetic interests or creative pursuits? Because you're
Yeah.
gonna be like world hopping or going to events together, and like it might be some stress sometimes, like social stress especially is one of those things VR, for better or worse, you know, provides sometimes. And that's something I think that can really like show you sort of like who's kind of capable of keeping it chill and figuring out problems and vibing, and who's gonna be maybe not necessarily the best person to have.
Yeah,
It's neat.
I mean, like,
just like a neat, like
if I
all-
spend time
like
with
a
people,
slightly sideways
you know.
from the usual internet friends kind of thing.
Yeah, like if I spend time with you, like we're fucking tight, okay? Like just to clear the air, like that's how you have to keep it. I don't know. I feel like all I can do is that, and like trust
much,
everyone
yeah.
else to do the same thing, right? Like,
Yeah, it just starts to realize like Tanabe spending
I
time
think-
with me via like
Yeah.
weird ulterior motives, which I don't think is very common, right? Like, it's
no,
actually
I don't.
not
Especially
common.
not in VR. I think it's super.
Right,
It's
well-
way rarer. At least for
well-
someone like me, who is not.
Sure.
I'm not packing 10,000 followers. I ain't got no blue check mark.
So here's the
So,
thing, like I talk about it all the time. I'm a bit of a broken record about it, but like I came in here from scratch for that reason.
Right.
Like I came
Oh,
in
yeah.
here completely anonymous to just meet people for people and like dodge any of that shit aside, and just like I love that. I really really love that.
A really good idea. I would do the same thing in
Mhm.
your shoes.
Yeah, and
I am.
and I see people that want to
What
hold
about
on
number
to and there's nothing wrong with like holding on to your identity into a new space or whatever, but I see people that want to hold on to their special treatment in new spaces, and then I see them complaining about how their life is harder because of it, and I'm just like, yo, shut the fuck up. Like, you want to hold on to your status, and you want to like take advantage of all the things that come with that, but then you don't want to like deal with any of the like discomfort about like look, it just doesn't work that way, like,
Nah. Yeah.
and the VR space is extremely humbling. Yeah, you might come in here if you're a big shot and like have people like swing off your danglies, and whatever, and that's great, but like at the end of the day you're just gonna feel like a husk if no one really fucks with you, because you see all these people
God, yeah.
around you that have genuine connections going on and are like creating things together.
Tiring.
And fuck, like I hope that it's humbling, because we need more of that energy in music specifically.
You have to interact with the whole ass person when you hang out with someone, right? Like, it's like, I think to some degree it's just not that fun to just like, how did you put it? However you put it, less politely, simping for people, right? To use a four-letter word. It's just like not that. I don't think people want to do it as much. Like, people kind of end up, I think, doing it a little bit subconsciously, right? When it does happen online, because it's not that hard.
Do it in VR, and more dedication to put up with people doing it to you in VR.
Oh yeah, because it's
You
real.
realize the, like,
It's real
hollowness
fucking
of it
life.
being faster.
Oh yeah. It's like, it's way easier to like drop a like and a comment on someone's, like, be thirsty in DMs for like an artist, be like, yo, your shit pops off, you're so
Or
cool,
you could
OMG.
just like retweet and get into arguments with people about how good that artist is, right?
Woo, rough. Okay, that's
I
that's a whole breed of brainworms that that's another galaxy
Sure.
for me. I don't get that shit at all.
you're getting
But like,
there.
oh no.
Feeling it.
What's been positive about this experience? Oh, it's a good question. Not a lot of. What's been positive about this experience? Oh, it's a good question. Not a lot of people. I like where you're going with that. I would say is having all the extra storage space on my person, and by that I mean I have a lot of extra pockets. So that's been nice. And to be clear, I mean there are extra folds within my skin that are, as of this, the time of this interview, useful for storage, and that's nice because I can't really feel anything. So it's nice to sort of, have this existential attachment to my physicality, where, I appreciate, the empty spaces within, and that's tight because I read that in the Tao one.
That is tight.
It's like an interview with a
That's a very earthy.
zombie.
I feel attacked. Yeah, I feel like
Yeah,
that maybe
like,
that's
is
another
that like
timeline for me or
that's
something.
gotta be, like they like ML drive your voice recreation or
There's
something.
a lot of dimensions out there.
Enough sample data now.
I want to stop change about something really quick. So I'm talking about fucking aliens, because I talk about aliens. That's something I like to talk about. And
It is.
Let's go.
Yeah.
and
Let's
so
go.
One of the so if you unless you've been living under a rock, the UFO disclosure conversation is fucking ramping up.
It's a whole deal.
Like way up. And one of the forerunners of this conversation is a man named Lou Elizondo. And Lou Elizondo allegedly worked for the Pentagon and was the head of something called ATIP, which is Advanced Aerial Threat Identification Program. And Lou doesn't violate anything about doesn't violate his oath, but has been really pushing to get disclosure in the forefront. Lou has been getting more and more mouthy as things progress here. Congress was briefed yesterday by the Navy and the FBI based on this report that was baked into some portion of a bill that was baked into the COVID bill from the President capital T era, and basically saying like, hey, we need to understand, the Department of Defense needs to ascertain if UFOs are actually a threat to the country. So now that the report is finished, or provisionally finished, complete, and has been delivered to Congress, Lou's been getting a little bit more just because his tongue's been getting a little more wild, and Lou is talking about basically that we need to get used to the idea that these aren't things that are necessarily sharing. These aren't like little green men that came from another like rock somewhere out in space, and they're not us that are more advanced and living under the oceans, because that's a big one, because a lot of these vehicles are transmedium, and so there's a big, powwow around the theory that this is like another advanced us living in the oceans, like our proto peoples. But Lou is saying that, or alluding to the fact that we share dimensional space with this stuff already, and that there's a lot of different ways to be alive, and that basically we're looking at beings that share extra dimensions. They share our dimension, but they also share their own dimension. What do you think about that?
It's breaking my brain big time.
Yeah.
But I
understand.
understand.
Like an overlaid realities kind of way. I understand. I actually think that might be more likely than like actual like from Alpha Centauri alien, right? Because the idea of like, just you think about like the practical matter universe. You think about the idea of like, why would anybody build a Tic Tac sized ship to show up, and like a big Tic Tac ship to show up and zip around that couldn't break the laws of physics in some way, which I don't know. I feel like the multidimensional thing is somehow a better theory, because anybody talk about like fashion light travel. Somebody coming out of fashion light travel would almost certainly cause some kind of like readable signature on our side, right? If they came out anywhere near our solar system, there would be some kind of like reading involved there. There
was a fire air quotes debate yesterday between Eric Weinstein and Michael Shermer, who Eric Weinstein is a really fun person to listen to speak and think out loud, and is also a fucking actual smart person and physicist. Both of those things, because we know there's physicists that are amazing physicists, but maybe not the holistically like in the most in tune. But Eric happens to be one of those people whose dialogue I enjoy. And Eric has started to really pick and prod at this, because it's bothering him that, to hear him talk, he's saying like, I feel like I'm having like flashbacks with like COVID stuff all over again. COVID stuff, they didn't ask the smartest people in the world how to deal. America didn't ask the smartest people in the world how to deal with this. They just didn't. And he's like, I know, because I know all the smartest people in the world, which is a fun
right.
flex. And so
that is good.
And so he's saying, like, he's asking around. He's asking all of his peers, like, what's up with this? What do you think about this? And he's just getting absolute fucking silence. and he's now getting louder himself to try to get answers, I think. And he's been involved in some sensitive stuff, and he's not nobody. So him getting louder and sort of kicking the tires on this is awesome too. And his main argument is just like to kind of like and one of the most powerful arguments I think about all of this is either way there's something that's creating a hole in the visage of the sovereignty of our country. Like we're a thermonuclear capable country that has a massive problem because there's either somebody that's like exceeded our capabilities, leapfrogged us by like hundreds of thousands of years, and it's an adversary of ours, and we just let that happen, go unchecked, or there's fucking beings here and we let that go unchecked too, and you let the narrative get out into the public in the open. So I think I'm loving watching him fucking hunt this thing down.
Just like yell, like yo, yeah. I think that is like the thing I think that tends to get most people like shying away from like unidentified like object discussions is like the people who can tend to get like super embroiled in them like hardcore. Sometimes they latch more onto the identification theory part more than like the hey, what the fuck is going on? Like, right? Like that's just a science thing. You see a thing that doesn't make any sense and you can be like, oh, it's probably just some random anomaly with like some air pocket or something. And like after a while it's like, okay, wait a minute, right? That's a hole in like a theory. And either we patch it up, you can't. So either way, like whether or not you're a hard skeptic or you're a diehard, like the unidentified part should not.
I mean, you can do science about it and be both. Yeah. Right? You can be like, I think this is true, and you can also your hypothesis can be yes, it's true. You can also say, I think it's probably wrong, but I also still do science about it.
But also, what is it? Yeah, you can't just be like, it's something.
The part like, for me, like
you can only deny so many like eclipses. Before you're like, wait a minute, maybe
like something known and terrestrial, like it's like another country, is really unlikely.
Yes.
Like keeping that kind of stuff under wraps is nearly impossible. Like you think about, even before the internet, right? I think the internet's made it even harder now to keep like actual secret projects secret.
You think?
But yeah, I think so. It's easier to exfiltrate data, and it's harder to like keep stuff. It's certainly easier than it was in like 1950, right? But like I think World War II history informed that somewhat, where there's definitely at least as much like surveillance and counter-surveillance trying to happen right now between like, for instance, the U.S. and China.
Ripple surveillance,
than there was between like anybody in 1950, right? There's at least as much going on because there's more funding, there's more access, the internet exists.
So the haters are the strongest points are well. So you got Mick West, who's the captain hater of the hater brigade on this whole thing, which is fine. We need skeptics. I encourage skepticism.
Yeah, 100%.
But
you have to have someone being like, no, you're wrong.
It's fine for it to be air pockets also that kind of move weird, and we don't know why yet.
Yeah, but Mick West is just a titty in my book, for a lot of different reasons, and like not the fun kind, like a weird like some kind of mole titty or something. Like some kind of weird some kind of weird looking face titty, like a face titty. So Mick West, tries to poke holes in the footage, running like different scenarios and simulations and stuff. But Mick West gets just slam dunked by actual like fighter pilots taking time out of it. I shared one in the home Discord where this fighter pilot, he was so funny to me because it was clearly this dude that just like had nothing going on a Sunday and was like, I'm gonna fucking dunk on Nick West. Watch this. Mick West, and just made like an example, like a really thorough example of what's going on in the footage from I think it was from GoFast. It's one of the UFO videos. Made an example out of like his kids' toys laying around. And like does a really great job of just like telling him to get wrecked. And then you have the other camp, which is saying like, oh look, this is all because of like interdepartmental infighting and the different like groups of our military want funding, and so that's what this is all about. Because
that I think is the most plausible, is that it's like some weird ploy for military funding in like an era where that's kind of uncertain. Like
sure,
there's kind of this push to drop military funding.
Well, because here historically, apparently most of the allegedly historically most of the competition, it wasn't like our arms race was with ourselves. It wasn't with other countries, and so people in wartime, it's like, the Navy trying to have more shit than the Air Force trying to have more shit than the Army. So okay, fair enough, I get it, but that, like, as you just keep going, like, that only holds up for so long, and the fact is, like, something's up. Now, the interdimensional theory, I think, is really, really fascinating when it comes to, and, here's the thing, I don't mind cracking the door open and getting fucking weird. I don't mind explore. It shouldn't make you uncomfortable to explore. I mean, whatever. Do whatever the fuck you want. But in my book, it shouldn't make me uncomfortable to explore like the weirdest, like, fathomable things and to entertain them as if they could be real. Like, why wouldn't I? And so thinking about that and thinking about consciousness, sort of the nature of consciousness and how little we actually understand about it, and its dimensionality, and I'm smooth brained as fuck. I don't really understand anything beyond like a fifth dimension. And
I just watched a couple episodes of Nova when I was growing up, and now I know things about string theory. So I'm not a physicist.
Dude, it's like strings. They're like stretchy. Anyway, it's these
vibing ass strings. Basically, the whole world is just vibes. Bro.
That's from what I understand. There's strings and it's like music or something. What I think is like really interesting about that, right? A lot of people kind of just like balk at those terms, right? Just in general, like people will hear like a phrase and it like turns their like brain off a little bit. I mean, I do the same thing, right? You hear
the word
some key phrases,
like,
you hear some key phrases, and you know to back away. Yeah, and that's just a normal like mechanism, and sometimes it's not even a bad instinct. I think in this case, it's an interesting discussion to think about, because like you were talking about not really entirely understanding consciousness, and for me this is like funny because I was literally just thinking about this like yesterday. Fuck talking about dimensions, right? Let's just talk about like comprehension, right? Like I'm sitting here playing with like my cat, right? And she's great and she's cute and I love her and her name's Basil. Anyway, back to dimensions. No, this is relevant. Like I'm playing like with like a toy on a string, right? And she's like suddenly thinks it's like a thing to like attack, and she's like attacking it, and like she won't care until it moves, and then you're just like sitting there trying to figure out how this like foggy ass brain. You're like, it's obviously attached to the string. I know you can see the string because you play with a string on its own like terms, right? Like you see these things, and like your brain is just not like understanding this in a way that you can like understand. Oh, the string is pulling on the toy to imitate movement in a way I should care about. So it's fake. It's not real, right? Like that animal that has like a brain is just not capable of like comprehending this structure in front of them, even if they see all the parts, and even if you could talk to them about the parts. Like putting them together and understanding it on a fundamental level is like something that like some animal is just like not capable of, right? So it's not that big of a stretch to just be like, there's definitely some shit that we just literally don't have the brain power to comprehend, right? And humanity in general, we're so good at like pushing that, right?
Like the perception to comprehend, right? Like there's
exactly
animals that see, like that perceive light in different wavelengths than us. And
like
interpret.
You've seen.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's like theories. The current theory as to why birds are good at flying home is because their eyeballs use quantum mechanics to literally see the like global magnetic fields as like actual stripes of like blue light, and they can just see it, right? And like, so there's the seeing things and the perceive and like the physical observation, but then there's just like this grander capability for conceptualization, right? And like you could definitely think of some examples that people struggle with, right? Like sometimes we're pretty bad at like conceptualizing of like us as a group, to the point where like, we can look the other way when some shitty stuff happens. Or like, I know that we should probably be doing something about like, carbon emissions or something, but it's just, it's just so hard, right? Like there are things that you can feel the edges of our like limitations of comprehending.
I mean, or
concepts.
even something as simple as how to
Right.
behave in a group of 500 other monkeys in a way that's
Yeah.
going to be productive for the other monkeys. Like nobody knows
Right.
how to do that. So.
And
Or,
yeah,
like,
and the
Ruby.
same way we look at like a motor, right, which has a bunch of moving parts,
Right.
like you could our understanding that group of separate things as a thing, right, as a physical object, like we're not even, the motor's not like a concept, it's a thing I hold in my hand, right? So like the idea of like something being conceptual versus physical is like to
Yeah.
some degree binary that we have kind of fabricated. So like the idea of like sharing space right here right now with some things that it's like difficult to comprehend as stuff or just purely outside the scope of our imagination.
It
It's
is,
not,
but it
like,
isn't,
right,
because
insane
let's
to
think
me.
about the,
Right?
let's
It's
think
not
about the
that weird.
concept of ideas in general. Think about the metaspace of
Yeah.
you know, all of these constructs and symbolism and all of these. There becomes like there becomes a landscape, a topology made out of the symbolism that we like use to understand the world. And
Totally.
you know, that in as much that could be, in my mind, and is in as much a terrain as any place I've ever walked, in being that it has beaten down features, and it is like, because I believe that thoughts are things. I've always believed that thoughts are things, that they're just as tangible as anything else. More tangible, right? Because it's happening in front of everything. It's the
Yeah.
precursor, and so I think
It
that
definitely
like,
feels closer.
to think
a
about
lot of
something that I've always thought, you know, consciousness seems like, you know, everything is recycled. Everything is sort of like used energetically, or at least like has a way to cycle and move on and becomes useful to something else or whatever. I'm sure maybe as a blanket statement that's false at some point, but everything that I've understood about, you know, things that happen naturally would lead me to believe that consciousness is something that's like useful to something else. Like it's a food source or an energy source to something else. So in the idea that like there's something that's got a leg in our experience that is fucking snacking on, you know, experiences and snacking on ideas,
Right.
and getting buff and shit
And
on
it's some like
well,
magic.
yeah, exactly. So this is where the occult stuff like enters the chat, and like there's all kinds of really interesting concepts that I'm just stoked that like this is all the stuff that's like in. Like, I didn't see this shit on Gaia. We didn't see this shit on fucking like 4 a.m. on Sci-Fi or whatever. This has been on fucking CNN lately. And like, I mean,
Right.
fuck CNN,
Well,
fuck all that shit too. But like, I'm just saying, like, at least this is getting to be part of a more normal air quotes conversation.
Yeah, it's silly to write it off. It's like, say what you want about it, right? It's something there. It's not, you know, it's silly to like look at these videos and look at all the discourse around them and all the people that are talking about them, like really serious people that are talking about them and saying, you know, this is shit we should look into. It's silly to just look at it and be like, oh, it's fake, and then write it off entirely, right? Like, it's worth exploring no matter what it ends up being.
It's worth
because
exploring
no matter what it
weird
ends up being interesting. Yeah, exactly.
it's good to do for your brain and also for humanity, which I mean also ties into the consciousness thing that you were saying, which is like, you know, there is one thing that definitely feeds off the energy of our individual consciousnesses, and that's like the idea of like humanity as a whole, right? The species, you know, whether you want to think about that conceptually or as like a almost physical like collection of like cells,
Yeah, like,
little
no,
people,
like
right?
Leviathan
I don't
in literature.
like that's the thing that gets to me. It's like the way that you would be like, you know, what if like conceptualizing of humanity as like an actual physical thing, right, and not an idea, right? Like if you asked every little cell in your finger about like being in a body, right, you know, they'd
No,
be
I
like,
don't give a shit.
that's
You're getting into,
stupid
you're
shit.
getting
I'm
into,
just
like,
doing
the
my own
concept
thing. I'm just
you're getting into
just
like the
walking
concept
around in
of
this
Leviathan, Voltaire.
yeah, right.
And, like,
No,
you're talking
totally.
about
And I'm
that.
not trying to be Thomas Hobbes in this bitch.
And-
Like,
well,
I'm not here
sure,
for
but
divine
if
right
you
of
talk about,
anybody.
you know, like what is the sort of embodiment,
Yeah,
personified
interesting.
embodiment of like
You know, get your
humanity?
Thomas
looks like?
Hobbes on if that's what you're trying to do in this bitch, you know?
No, don't get your Hobbes on. Fuck Hobbes.
Maybe don't actually get your Hobbes.
Don't get your Thomas Hobbes on. We don't need any VR chat monarchs. Jesus Christ.
That's true. That's
Can
true.
you imagine?
It's coming.
Side
For
note,
monarchy.
holy shit.
Yeah, can you imagine actually though somebody who like crowns themselves king and like has a weird sort
Jokes
of
on them. I could
feudalistic
just leave.
society?
Actually, kind
Yeah,
of
it's not
tight.
something
I actually
I
encourage
can
it.
just go home.
I encourage it.
No, I do encourage it.
I see. But I want chaos. I want everyone to try everything. I want supervillains. I want fucking monarchs.
I want two people to be kings
If
and
there's a
fight.
space to try everything, it's certainly VR space.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Where like the
Yeah, yeah.
ramifications are, at the end of the day, like mental more than physical.
Yeah, unlike a real feudal state, you can just
Like
be like,
real
all right,
feudal-
I'm out.
Well, we are speaking of feudal
Oh,
states. We
shit.
are being taken over
I'm
right
out. So it looks like I'm gonna be out, yeah, one way or the other.
After the real money loading's coming your way with the riders on the truck side. Don't forget my share of the deal. Shit, tuna on white, no crust, right? I don't know, how is it? Every day for the last 3 weeks, come here asking how the tuna is. Crappy yesterday, crappy the day before, and guess what? It hasn't changed. I'll have the tuna. No crust, no crust. No crust. No crust. No crust. No crust.
Yeah.
Maybe a little crust.
No crust. I feel encouraged to ask for no crust on the next pizza order, or burn down the building.
Pizza! Holy shit! Sorry, that's a bridge too far. How do you order no crust on a pizza? What do you pick it up with?
No crust. I mean, what else would
You
that
want a
mean?
crustless pizza?
A sandwich.
Crustless
Sandwich.
pizza.
That's heresy.
I don't know. What is that? What
Dude,
does that turn
cru-
into? Boneless
I'm
pizza.
loving that.
Thanks, yeah.
Dude, it is a boneless pizza.
Yo, real
That's
quick,
fucked up.
shout out to the fucking chat. Shout out to Loopy Loopy. Get him with Shaggy. Swa,
Oh, yeah.
obviously the homie.
Yeah, genuinely, chat's been really fun to kind of keep an eye on here.
I'm trying to,
during
yeah, I'm
this
trying
show.
to like
trying to mentally
juggle
stay
that and
engaged
like
here.
weird
Kezray.
intermissions about
Shout
hands or
outs.
feet or whatever.
And whatever Frank's doing at any given
Scrolling.
moment,
Frank,
which
shout
has
out.
been increasingly strange.
Fucking
Yeah, this has been a
Frank.
fantastic like demonstration in juggling way too many stimuli at once and just like existing.
Yeah.
It's like very
Good thing we're
unreal.
both pretty okay at it.
Yeah, it's like the opposite of VR, honestly. I get like the most focus in that shit. Like
Same.
I like just this there's like 7 things going on the screen, let alone chat and fucking audio. It's amazing.
Shout out Finn's in the chat.
Yo. Everyone's
actually
chat.
okay. So
Magical fan.
you did mention something earlier that I wanted to kind
Strays.
of touch on.
Yeah.
We've got time here.
Touch it up.
So you were talking about how there's a filter, right, in VR. You don't get everybody's body language. You don't get everybody's anything.
Oh, yeah.
And I think a lot of people in chat have probably met somebody from VR now. They knew through VR for like months beforehand.
Mhm.
I met Finn, and the like.
Let's go.
I just want to talk about like the kind of, I don't know, Lamp, you've met like several people. The like, there's like this interesting like fill in the gaps thing that happens when you meet somebody who you've known through VR mostly, because that filter, even no matter how many times you've like you've hung out on like a video call, you've been in like a Discord voice call, whatever, right? It's still not like the full body language. It's not like you don't get to see their face and like the little micro movements and stuff. Like you were talking about, the micro expression changes. There's like this really interesting fill in the gaps thing that we were both talking about. I wonder if that carries over back into VR again. Like, are you going to be able to kind of visualize more of those micro expressions once you're back in VR together, once you're not, face to face anymore? And the answer is yes, totally.
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
There's this like extra layer of like interpretive thought they're doing, because you've built this heuristic in your head now of like what they look like when they're sort of feeling this certain emotion towards something, right? So like once you've seen that, you can kind of call that back up again and like let it tinge the like observation, the physical observation of them in VR.
Yeah.
Really exceedingly interesting.
It's
And, like,
crazy.
brain tingly stuff. And it doesn't quit, it doesn't stop is the thing. Like, we hung out for like 2 weeks, and that was a long time for like, I think most people who like meet VR friends tend to like hang out for like a weekend, right? That's what I've mostly heard. We spent like 2 weeks together, and then we're now back into VR together, like we were for months at a time. and that's like we keep noticing new like little things of like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's slightly different now. Like
Mhm.
just little like
Yeah.
subtle movements of like dancing or like watching shows or whatever. Like I know, like we know what each other's faces look like when we're watching a good show now.
Yeah.
We're watching
Oh
like
my
a good music, a good concert, and that's like touched now all of the other little parts of VR. Extremely cool. I guess I don't know where I'm like necessarily going with this, but I do highly
No.
recommend.
I
VR
I-
friends.
what I thought-
meet them. They're cool.
Yeah. No, totally. It's amazing, and people should do it. I mean, first of all, I think it gives you a better ground level understanding. It's a good reminder of the people around you, right?
Definitely.
Because sometimes it's easy to subconsciously kind of exist in this middle ground between them. But like the more people you meet from VR, and the more you practice connecting I mean, not that you need to practice it. Your body will do it without,
yeah.
your consent. Connecting the two, like it gives you a better. It at least is a good reminder that there's a lot of depth that is worth like keeping track of, or at least keeping in mind and thinking about when you see other people existing in VR space, which I think is amazing. But like to the like brain aspect, like I saw full disclosure. I mean, I saw Finn briefly afterwards, after you two hung out, and like, I was just downloading, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
the closest thing that popped into my head is like when you showed me, you were using like Gravity Sketch in VR, and you were like, okay, so this is my basic like work layout, and I watched you like lay out a thing.
Oh god, I remember that. Yeah.
Right, and I
There too.
I couldn't even finish a fucking sentence, right? I just like a switch flipped in my brain, and I was just downloading like every microsecond, of like every frame of data. I was like, what is happening? Look at all of this interaction and creation and form and interaction. You know what I mean? Like something just instantly clicked, and I just couldn't do anything else. And that happened multiple times with both of the times I saw someone in VR, where it's just like, oh my god, eyebrows that move and eyes that look.
Oh my
and
god,
mouths,
yeah.
right? And like I would be like mid sentence, and I would just lose track because they just made like a facial expression, and it was louder than like any word I'd heard in like weeks. You know what I mean? Just because it was
Right.
thunderous compared to just the ambient conversations you have with
Right.
everybody. And like,
Well,
it's amazing the feeling of just like sucking it up.
right.
Like,
And also, like you talked about,
and then
like
broadcasting it back later.
humanizes people.
Oh, yeah.
we had a whole night where we spent we did a shared play space while we were spending time together,
Oh, that's
where
so
we hooked up like
That
the
was
jankiest possible like 2 LTE modems on the roof of this like cabin in the
God
mountains.
damn.
Just,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
just
yeah.
get internet, to get like 5 megabits down of internet so that we could do mass. We came to your
Yeah,
event.
that tripped me out.
And
When you
it was-
demonstrated for me that you were in the same space, I was like, I
Yeah, so
love it.
there's
Anytime
always-
I see that, it was really cool though.
Right. Still, it's like obvious stuff. Like if you've seen people do it, if you're sort of familiar with like VR chat enough, you've probably met people who are in the same play space, and they'll get the tricks, right? Like, oh look, we can lean on each other. Oh look, I can pick them up, right? Like I picked up Finn. And it was like, party tricks.
Oh, I got a good
But there's
picture of
this
that, by the
extra-
way. I need to give that to you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I would love that. I don't have any good. I actually don't have any good pictures of that, so that'd be awesome. I have really dark ones, but there's this extra layer underneath all that of like both of us were like brain fried the entire time, like almost incapable of like holding the sort of normal like I'm in
Yeah.
this VR space with people like atmosphere, like
Mhm.
download mode, very much download mode, like Lamp was talking about, where like I was kind of having
Yeah,
this like sort of like I try to keep in my head that like everybody I'm talking to, like I'm kind of reminding myself that everybody I'm talking to in VR is a real person. Like they're there, right? They're in front of me. They are they're in their own room somewhere, but they're a real person behind that avatar. And that's like a healthy thing to do. But then
Yeah.
to show up to an event and be in the same room as someone who I've spent a whole bunch of time with in VR already, and then
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
see everybody else around me,
Mhm.
like immediately like click humanized everybody else like so much deeper than anybody had ever been humanized before. Of like, oh
Yeah. DLC.
I could be doing this. I could do this with anybody. Like I could be doing this. I could take my VR stuff over to like Ohm's place, or I could take my VR stuff over to Lamp's place. I could take my VR stuff over. Like I could do
Oh,
this
yeah.
with anybody, and then I could the same way that I'm like reaching out and touching Finn's hand, I could reach out and touch anybody else's hand, and they'd be just as
You can
solidly
say my
flesh
hand,
and
it's
blood.
okay.
And-
No,
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
It's
I
just, like,
can't.
it's something that you can
Uh-huh.
tell yourself a million times, but until you actually do it, it's like
God,
just sort of
yeah,
not real.
slaps. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was lucky to be able to share a play space with like Jonesy early on.
Right.
And it was just like, whoa, holy shit. Grab me a beer from the fridge. Like
Or,
it was just like looking up and then back down and then up and then back down. It's like insane.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even at a show or anything. I can only imagine if it was at like a big event with all my friends. Like
at a show was weird
spotter,
because
a
a
rea-
lot
a
of stuff, a
physicality
lot of our
spotter.
activity in VR is like dancing, and dancing is
Yeah.
actually kind of weird when you're in the same play space because there's
Oh,
no
yeah, super hard.
delay in real
no
life. but there is
indicator.
delay in
Also.
yeah, and yeah, there's no
I
indicator.
picture
Uh,
everyone in their houses every time I'm on stage. I picture everyone where they're at individually, and
Yeah.
at the last time I played, it really got me. I don't know why, but it was really emotional just thinking about everyone individually enjoying themselves together. I just thought there's something about that was just really
It's
like
amazing.
really beautiful. Yeah.
Because it's I've talked before about how there's a lower energy barrier to entry, right, with like these VR venues, because you can just bounce if you're not vibing. You can't you don't have to drive home or whatever. You don't have to DD for your friends. But like
you didn't buy a ticket.
the converse of that is when you are there, you're like so much more there by choice, right? Like since you can bail if you're not vibing, like you're fucking there, like you're in your little zone in your room, but like with everyone at the same time. So it's like it's not just seeing a crowd where everyone's there and they're like, woo, yeah. No, I don't know. You're totally right. No, I agree. Like thinking about that kind of stuff, it's like it's mind blowing. Like we're really not ready. We're practicing still.
I think about what are the long-term kind of I can't even sort of begin to speculate what the long-term ramifications of what we're experiencing are going to be. I just know that like I feel different in social settings and in very subtle kind of strange ways that I haven't really fine-tuned or honed in on. I'm very much a hermit. I'm very secluded. I'm out here on an island out in the middle of nowhere, and I don't hang out with anyone here. I have my partner, but I'm not like, I don't have a friend group or anything out here. So
You're not hosting 20-person events at your house.
Yeah, and I don't go like kick it with people. So, but and the couple times I've been in like around other people or whatever, I've just noticed like, wow, there's all this extra data. Oh man, this is like, it's hard for me to process. I cannot explain how it's different. It just is different.
Oh, it's a different mindset for sure. You have to like flip your brain into like physical space mode, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I had to do the same thing for like online right early on. I know the difference is far more stark, so I think it was a bit easier to develop that skill. Like going from online mode VCing with your freaking boys or whatever to like physical space and having to manage like your full body and not just like your mouth and your ears. So like with VR it's even harder because you have to change just as much, but it's like, if not more, but it's even harder to like pin down exactly what the difference is. And I think you're totally right about the stimulation too, because that's one thing that I've been thinking about, and I've talked to a couple people about it. It's like, by and large, despite all of the neon colors and the pulsing lights and the indulgent attire and all that stuff that comes with VR, we are by and large like woefully understimulated visually compared to daily life. Despite having a flashing screen strapped to your face, you're missing a ton of your field of vision. It's all blacked out, right? Because of the goggles. But also,
that's something I noticed. The second I went to a real show again for the first time, like a year after everything.
Like, wow.
Oh fuck. Okay, yeah, I see.
Fucking shit, yeah. Like it's not even like better or worse necessarily, but like the ambient stimulus, right? Like everything is moving a little bit. Right. In real life, right? Mm-hmm. Everything is just moving a tiny bit. There's all these subtle little details that are like providing gentle contrast to like the cones and rods in your periphery. Like you're getting all of these signals, right, that are just suddenly turned off when you put the headset on. And I think that's part of the reason why your brain stays up so late when you're in VR, is because you are not like in the background processing as much stimuli, right? Which is just that processing happens, whether you like it or not. And so like when you're, oh shit, is that? Oh, it's Frank still.
No, that's
but yeah,
the
like
bot.
it's interesting to think
Yeah,
about
that's Frank.
that, like that we're like if we start being able to program in more of that into like
I wonder how much
worlds.
that plays into the like desirability of alcohol in VR, because I know it's not
Dude,
just
yeah.
like I know alcohol, like VR alcohol.
Somebody
alcoholism
told me that.
is, don't get me wrong,
Somebody
a huge
mentioned
problem in VR chat.
Oh, yeah.
Let me be extremely clear about that. But there's this aspect. I mean, I've been drunk in VR, and there's definitely this aspect of like it. I wonder if it's not being drunk because it blurs your senses in such a way and it like dulls some of your senses. I wonder if being drunk doesn't kind of mask to your brain the fact that it's actually missing some sensory input. Like,
Oh yeah, like
Probably
getting
part of
over
it.
the way you get
Being
over
drunk
seas
increases
and
immersion
VR
for sure.
series, too.
Like,
Oh,
I have
yeah.
been, some of the most immersed I've ever been in VR, like most like present I've been has been when I'm a little inebriated.
I haven't been
Um,
drunk in VR yet. I haven't been drunk in years, but
Yeah.
I'll smoke a little weed and get in VR. But what I've noticed
Dude,
is that
weed's same deal.
doesn't.
I mean, every
the-
drug I've done in VR has been the same deal.
The
where
effects
it's
of
like-
the drug don't seem to be as intense in VR.
Oh, yeah.
That's interesting.
Certainly, yeah. Well, I mean, I can like by my metrics, I don't get any like vision spinning ever in VR. That's actually how I check if I've had a little bit too much to drink, because I'll take the headset off and check if the room is a little twisty, and if it is, then
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, okay, I'm done.
Dude, I think go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, and like other drugs, like I mean, I've done psychedelics in VR, and like the immersion increase there is really really impressive. But there's no visual aspect to it. Anybody in the chat who's like done those would know what I'm talking about, and like that's just not present in VR for whatever reason. Like the
Yeah,
screen
screens
masks
don't do
or
it
your
for
brain
me.
Dude,
doesn't.
yeah.
Yeah, screens
Mhm.
never do it.
I
for me
think
anyway.
you just you have way less stuff to compare it to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's a interesting dynamic.
I went to see the Matrix with a head full of shrooms, and
Yo.
for the first time, and I like
Damn, that's fun.
Your first time seeing it, or your first time?
Yo.
yeah.
That's it.
And the screen didn't do shit, but it was the story was, tremendous. Like, and it was like way over the top. On
Dude,
top
yeah.
of it, it was just like,
Yeah.
holy shit.
And it was the fucking Matrix on
Yeah.
like the top of all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
The Matrix is like such a weirdly prescient piece of media. Actually, like every time I rewatch like just the first Matrix film, the older I get, and also like the more like the future gets, the more prescient the Matrix is, which is really neat. It's kind of a
Yeah.
hallmark of a really good piece of art.
I think our cultural biorhythms are cycled with that era right now, like hardcore.
Huge.
Cultural bio. That's
it's
a good.
it's because of that era was like as the internet was kind of like exploding and becoming what it is on its way to being. There is this this particular sort of intersection of like corporate future fetishism that it could sell you the promise, but it couldn't deliver on it. And now we have the tech that delivers on a lot of that shit, and it's actually like a future that we can sell and that we can manufacture and create now. So some of the old facades, the old UI designs, the old aesthetics match what's happening right now, because that's kind of what was implied by the design language of that era, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They're both Enlightenment eras, I think. Whether they ever get historically recognized as such or not is largely irrelevant to me. But like the birth of like global internet use and the birth of like this whispering right now are both massive like phases of massive expansion, creatively and like conceptually. And that way I feel pretty comfortable calling them like Enlightenment eras, right? You have this huge space for people to just explore and fill up and decide what to do and just like craft, right? Everything around. And we just didn't, that like didn't exist like seconds ago, right?
Right.
And whenever you have this giant
Seconds
massive
in any kind of reasonable time scale, right? Like
yes, exactly, right?
span of, like, a
It's just like
few
off
years,
on light switch.
you go from nothing
yeah.
to like thousands and thousands of people connected to the internet.
Dude.
Well,
Yeah.
also the UI entered the chat. So designers had a new
Yes.
brand new playground in
Yeah.
way of the UI, and the UI has become. I remember just watching
bad.
UI become more prevalent in Hollywood because so many people, you know,
Yes.
we spend some giant fucking chunk of time sitting in front of a UI now, and so now movies have these whole, you know, Hollywood movies have these whole giant. What is Frank doing? Have these whole giant sections
Boring.
of when they're trying to sell something that's happening with have a personal moment with a character where they show the UI on the phone or whatever. And so
Oh yeah, totally.
I think that like designers having this new thing to consider in
Yeah.
the UI informed all like everything needed to look like a UI that wasn't a fucking UI, and so now everything's actually got a UI, and I think that's another part of why
Oh yeah,
that
like everything.
that specific
Yeah.
you know, flavor of nostalgia is particularly potent today. I'm all for it. I think it's awesome.
VR UI is such a weird mess too. Like I don't think nobody's figured it out yet. There's
Dude,
so
it's
many,
like it's exactly like the internet. So we're in
very much like web point
dead ass
05.
GeoCities right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I was
Usenet.
thinking about that. I'm like, man, Mass looks like a fucking a fucking GIF-filled GeoCities page.
Yes.
Compared to
Welcome
whatever's
to my
coming
page.
down the
Yeah.
road. Yeah. Like here's my busted ass player and
seven frame
Yeah.
caution under construction little guy with the jackhammer. Like
Yeah.
here's my favorite links.
Yo,
Right.
But I like that though. Like there's something like even before I explored any of these spaces, like that era was always nostalgic, even if I didn't like fully experience like being an adult during it, you know.
Yeah.
I was a little
I
young.
think that's
Like-
like I've heard multiple times, like even back in like 2018 VR chat, where like people were like, "This feels like the early internet again," and like
Yeah.
that's why it's part of why it felt like the early internet is because like the tools are rudimentary, the content is
Nobody
rudimentary,
knows what they're doing.
but it's
Yeah.
still this, and nobody knows what they're doing, and it's still this
Yeah.
like really pretty space where there's like nice free creativity, and everybody seems kind of nice.
Right. In like in a grander sense too, like even before like VR at all, it's just that GeoCities vibe is one of pure like curiosity and creativity and expression, right? Because I mean in the last episode you did, right? Billen was talking about like everyone has that moment of curiosity as a kid, right? Like where you're
Discovery,
like, digging
yeah.
in a hole with a stick
Mhm.
or like poking an anthill or whatever, right? And you are kind of taught to only engage that in very productive, financially usually, ways when you're an
Capital
adult,
P, productive.
right? Time to bust out your problem-solving skills to solve this, you know, spreadsheet or budget deficit or whatever, right? But you know, when anyone could design a web page, everyone's just doing cheesy shit, right? They're putting in a little silly GIF and they're writing like the same cliched thing that everyone else is writing, and it's like awesome because it's just like people are just like giving themselves the opportunity to like do what comes to mind,
Do it because you
unfettered
can.
by unfettered by like, you know, the normal like, oh, adults have to do XYZ or whatever, and it's like beat out of us in school, but also just like devoid of like, I don't know, the ambient like cultural irony poisoning that just like is an absolute plague like right now. I don't know, like every movie is like 80% self-referential, like kind of semi-ironic humor, and everyone online is just like shitposting and maintaining like vaguely nebulous personas on Twitter that are like, are they a little ironic or are they weird or relatable? And it's just like so pervasive. No one's like embarrassing, right, online. No one's just like themselves. No one builds a brand rather by just being embarrassing at themselves online. And so you don't see
Maybe
it.
Oliver Tree, maybe.
Oliver Tree did it in a hella ironic way.
Well,
That's
I
the
mean,
impression
yeah.
I got, right? It was like,
Kind of.
oh, haha,
kind
I'm
of, dude.
so awkward and
Dude's
weird.
also
I think
kind
it's
of like
indicative
that.
of how much we're missing that.
Dude, okay,
that
see,
the people that
that's-
do that. Like, I mean, I
Yes.
think about like there's this channel called All Gas No Breaks that does just like
Yep.
Yeah.
really corny interviews. And you think about
I
how big
love
that
that.
got. And how I love that whole like and like give him money.
Totally.
every-
Did you
Yeah,
see the one
and, like-
the
And
twins?
I think the fact that everybody responds so well to that is the one that's like the one that's indicative of the fact that everybody's really tired of that, but nobody really knows how to get out of it.
Yeah. No, exactly. What were you saying?
And yes, I saw the one with the
fucking
twins, the newest
that
one.
that
It's
is just
extremely cool.
that is just I watched it twice. It really
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
those are a Nick Nosher thing.
Thank you,
but,
Firon. Don't look up All Gas No Breaks anymore. You moved to a new channel because the media company that owns
yeah,
this
Channel
contract,
5. It's called Channel 5.
Channel 5 is the new one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but that
This
that
whole place
the,
like
the twins
on
one.
these two twins from like the where was it from again? Is it a place?
Oh,
it's in California.
they're in California, but like it's just so well done. It's just like really amazing character study. It's like this just
Yeah.
Right.
excellent modern character study, and it's like if you haven't seen it, you just need to go watch it. It's just like, oh god, it's so well done. It's
Dude, I
poetry.
haven't seen that one yet.
Oh
I
my
gotta
god,
check it out.
Lamp.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
no, I'll check it the
It's
fuck out.
The character study
because
on
I
like
wish-
people who are like really genuinely really interesting people who like would never get a character study done on them. Like
Yeah, I will check it.
that kind of thing.
I think that's like the second thing everyone notices about All Gas No Breaks, right? The first thing is like funny, awkward interview and haha, funny, weird people saying embarrassing things.
Right.
And the second
And
thing
then
is like,
just underneath that immediately
wow.
is like
He's like, wait a
oh.
minute. Like he's like being a little bit weird, but he's not like being that like awkward or weird or rude or anything. And it's just amazing, like the genuineness of the responses that he gets. Like he'll
Yeah.
pry out someone's real ass personality, whether it's intentional or not. They're just like straight up.
Well, I think
with
and he doesn't.
and, like-
I think he processes because he actually cares. Like I don't know if you've read like
Yeah.
interviews with him or whatever, but there's
Oh,
this interview
totally.
where he talks about like, yeah, my brain's a little weird because I did like mushrooms when I was 14, too much of them, and
Mhm.
now I'm just like this. And I think he's like genuinely incapable of like feeling awkward.
Yeah.
And so he just sort of
Dude.
goes and is genuine at people and gets genuineness back, and it's really, really pretty to watch in this sea of like produced content, right?
Right. Like you can only watch so many of those. And just like laughing at the weird people before you just like sit there and like time after time like watch them just like 100% be themselves on a camera online 100 billion times than you've ever been yourself
Right.
on like Twitter
Oh.
or like to like
Right.
your casual work friends, right? Like
Yo,
that is just mind blowing, right? You're just like,
Frank.
fuck,
look at
dude,
this.
Frank, where the heck are you?
This is
Yeah, Frank, this is cool.
MIDI particle world.
Yo.
Wow.
Anyway, yeah. So I feel like VRChat gives people that kind of space again, and you get to see all that kind of like just random creativity.
Right.
and it's
This
okay
all kind of wraps into itself.
yeah. I can only get so
Being
annoyed with
genuine
people
at
doing the
people
same
and
things.
Learning
Yeah.
how good that is
Yeah,
just
it's
like a
awesome.
really beautiful. Any tool that gives you that is a good tool, in my opinion. Like if
Mhm.
VR gives people that, it is a force for good.
It inspires people to do what they want, and even if that's the same thing everyone else thinks about doing for a while, that's like okay, because I like just seeing that era. Because everyone has their first projects in the back of their head, and they all sucked ass.
No, nobody's first project is like from scratch, no influence.
Uh-huh.
No, nobody creates in a vacuum.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just like I can only be so bitter, because that shit's just awesome to witness and be a part of.
Speaking of a vacuum, I think I'm going to return us to the void from whence we came.
Please.
I
Yeah.
really loved this, and especially as we got, as we get situated here, the real conversations come through, and I love. I just want to take a moment to point out how honored I am to be your friend. I love how insightful each of you are. I love talking to both of you, and I'm really, less the spectacle and more like just having the opportunity to like kick it and talk. I love this, so I really appreciate you both, and I appreciate you being here.
Oh,
Likewise.
yeah, absolutely.
Of course.
Likewise. I've always loved having these kinds of conversations with both.
These
of
kind of
you.
conversations are brilliant, and I don't know. You're both creatively
love all the
inspiring and
time.
also like
Yeah.
just a genuinely nice human being. So
Yeah.
sitting around for 2 hours and bullshitting about really transcendental topics, it's great.
Yeah.
We will
Anytime.
we will be doing this regularly, so
Hell.
we'll have plenty of
Hell
chances.
yeah. I love how this was only maybe like 10% different than like the normal times that we've had.
Just talk.
and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the most of the difference was the videos.
Yep.
Right.
The fucking interception.
Which, for the record, holy, I love those.
I don't care. I'll
Oh,
hand my signals over to those homies any
Yeah,
day.
Yeah, that's why I was saying, like,
Really need
if
to
you
fire
can't
it.
beat them, you
That's
might as well
DRM
join
free
them.
copy.
I'm just gonna let them run wild, and you know, they'll be on the shows. They'll be at the shows. I'm just letting it through because I can't filter it out, and I'm tired of trying it, and it's it's entertaining. So why not just let it go, let it rip.
Just let it rip.
Frank,
Fuck yeah.
thank you for creating the orb. Pray a musical MIDI orb, no less. Praise the orb, and until next time.
Praise him.
I hope you are,
That was pretty
wherever you are, if you're listening, no matter what time, if it's now or if it's in the future. I think that's all of our options at this point. I hope you're well. I hope you're being kind to yourself, and I hope you're being kind to the people that you love. And I hope you're telling everybody around you how awesome you think they are, because that shit is really important. And if you haven't done that today, you probably should, because it's going to help you feel better. I know at least one person just needs to hear exactly that. So...
And it's me. Tell it to me.
Exactly.
Everybody. No, for real though. I hope everyone's doing good.
Yo, Frank,
Genuinely,
Yeah,
everyone
holding
in
it down in the
Everybody have a good
metaverse. Thank you,
Hey, have a good
homie.
Juneteenth, and
Yeah. Happy Juneteenth.
Take care of yourself.
Be good.
Oh fuck yeah.
Okay. Yeah.